The Mystery at the Garden of Eden by Alaba Gabriel Idowu. Chapter 1. What went wrong? Growing up, my parents always taught me that God is good and that everything He creates is good, including the institution of marriage. This truth was instilled in me from an early age, shaping my understanding of God's divine plan for humanity. Without a shadow of a doubt, I know that God is good because His faithfulness endures forever. His plans for us are not random or uncertain. They are intentional and filled with purpose, plans to give us peace, hope, and a future. Moreover, His blessings are complete, bringing joy without sorrow or regret. When we align ourselves with His will, we experience the fullness of His goodness in every aspect of our lives, including our relationships. One of the greatest demonstrations of God's goodness is His understanding of our needs, even before we express them. Just as He recognized Adam's need for companionship, He knows what is best for each of us at every stage of life. The Bible tells us that Adam was placed in the Garden of Eden with meaningful work to do, tending the garden and fulfilling the responsibilities God had assigned to him. This shows that work and purpose were established before the introduction of human relationships, emphasizing that God desires us to be productive and engaged in His plans. Yet, in His infinite wisdom, God saw that something was missing. Though Adam was occupied with divine work, he lacked companionship. God, in His boundless love, understood the weight of solitude and the importance of partnership. He knew that Adam needed someone to share in his purpose, provide support, and journey with him through life. This reveals that God's concern extends beyond our physical well-being to our emotional, spiritual, and relational needs as well. From the very beginning, God designed humanity to thrive in relationships, not isolation. For emphasis, what is truly remarkable is that Adam did not even have to ask for a companion. In His foresight, God declared, "It is not good that man should be alone, I will make him a helper comparable to him." Genesis 2 verse 18. This declaration underscores an important truth: God, in His sovereignty, provides for our needs even before we recognize them ourselves. His provision is not arbitrary but intentional, perfectly aligned with His divine order. Marriage, therefore, is not merely a human institution but a divine arrangement, reflecting God's goodness and perfect design. It is a covenant that mirrors His love, faithfulness, and commitment to His people. When approached with the right mindset and foundation built on God's principles, it becomes a source of strength, joy, and fulfillment. Marriage is not just about companionship but about two individuals coming together to fulfill God's purpose in unity. It is a testament to God's care, proving that He not only meets our needs but exceeds our expectations by providing in ways that align perfectly with His divine will. This marriage was designed to bring Adam and Eve joy and enable them to develop synergy in fulfilling their God-given purpose. Adam was placed in the Garden of Eden to work and take care of it. God assigned him the responsibility of maintaining and cultivating the garden, as well as the authority to name all the animals, demonstrating His dominion over creation. To complement him, God created Eve as a suitable helper, uniquely designed to support and strengthen him in his calling. Adam was entrusted with the role of leadership, protection, and provision, while Eve was given the role of partnership, nurturing, and support. Their union was a reflection of God's perfect plan, harmonious, purposeful, and filled with love. However, this perfect relationship was soon disrupted when the enemy infiltrated it, deceiving Eve into eating the forbidden fruit, which she then gave to Adam. This act marked the beginning of the fall of man, introducing sin and separation from God into what was once an ideal union. The enemy's strategy was to distort God's design, sowing seeds of doubt and rebellion, leading to disobedience. What was meant to be a relationship built on trust and divine order became tainted with blame, shame, and discord. Despite the fall, God's original design for marriage remains unchanged. Though sin disrupted the perfect harmony between man and woman, God, in His mercy, provided redemption through Jesus Christ. Through Christ, we are restored to God's original intent, which means that marriages can once again reflect His love, grace, and unity. When we surrender our relationships to God and seek Him as the foundation, He grants us the wisdom, strength, and love needed to build lasting and meaningful unions. Ultimately, God's plan for marriage is not just about two people coming together, but about His greater purpose being fulfilled through their unity. A God-centered marriage glorifies Him, strengthens both partners, and serves as a testimony of His goodness to the world. When we embrace this divine perspective, we walk in the fullness of His blessings, experiencing a marriage that is truly heaven on earth. Unfortunately, just as in the Garden of Eden, many God-ordained marriages today face serious challenges, not because God is no longer with the couples or because they were never meant to be together, but because many believers are unaware of the subtle ways the enemy gains access to destroy marriages. The devil does not always attack marriages in obvious ways, rather, he often uses small cracks such as miscommunication, distrust, selfishness, and unresolved conflicts to create division and ultimately tear relationships apart. As Christians, we pray before marriage, seek counsel from mentors and pastors, and participate in premarital counseling sessions organized by churches. We enter marriage with high hopes and the expectation that, because God is at the center, our union will flourish. Yet, despite these efforts, some Christian marriages still end in turmoil. Recent studies indicate that approximately 20 to 25% of Christian marriages result in divorce, with even higher rates among millennials and younger generations of believers. This statistic is alarming, considering that these are individuals who once stood before God, exchanged vows, and committed to a lifelong covenant. It begs the question, if marriage is a God-ordained institution, why do so many fail? Recently, I heard about a couple who had been married for less than a year and were already contemplating divorce. I was shocked because both individuals are committed Christians who attend the same church. From the outside, their relationship seemed solid, built on faith, love, and shared values. Yet, in a short time, they found themselves considering separation. Sadly, this is not an isolated case. Many Christian marriages that begin with love and excitement eventually crumble under the weight of unforeseen challenges. The devil is cunning and relentless in his mission to steal, kill, and destroy. John 10 verse 10. He does not want Christian marriages to succeed because he understands that a strong, godly marriage is a powerful testimony of God's love and design. His strategy has not changed since the days of Adam and Eve. The same deception that led to the fall of man is still at work in marriages today. This raises an important question: how did the devil gain access to a perfect union instituted by God? At first glance, it is evident that Adam and Eve disobeyed God by eating the forbidden fruit. However, it is necessary to examine the underlying factors that made them susceptible to the enemy's deception. A careful look at Genesis 3 verses 1 to 5 reveals a critical detail: the devil approached Eve alone. However, in verse 6 of the same chapter, it appears that Adam was present but not part of the conversation. The devil engaged Eve in dialogue, planting doubt in her heart about God's instructions. Instead of consulting Adam or seeking clarity, Eve acted on the serpent's counsel without first discussing it with her husband. This lack of communication was a critical misstep. By failing to share the serpent's suggestion with Adam, Eve demonstrated ineffective communication, a common issue that can lead to serious consequences in any relationship. In marriage, when couples make decisions independently without their partner's knowledge or consent, ineffective communication is at play. If not addressed, this breakdown creates vulnerabilities that the enemy can exploit to sow discord and cause harm. Maintaining open and honest communication is essential for fostering unity and trust in a relationship. When communication between a husband and wife is lacking, assumptions take the place of clarity, creating an opportunity for the enemy to strike. If Adam and Eve had been in constant, open dialogue, Eve might have consulted Adam before making a decision. She could have asked, "Adam, do you think we should eat this fruit? Did God really say we must not touch it?" Instead, she relied solely on the serpent's words without verifying them. Unfortunately, her failure to communicate led to irreversible consequences. The enemy capitalized on their lack of communication and approached Eve alone. This was a strategic move. If Eve had responded, "Let me discuss this with my husband first," the serpent would have lost his advantage. Deceivers rarely want a third party involved in their schemes. Even today, when someone offers a deceptive opportunity and you tell them you will seek advice from a wiser person, they often withdraw. The same principle applies in marriage. When couples maintain transparent and honest communication, they shut the door against the enemy's influence. This principle is crucial not only in avoiding deception but also in addressing daily marital challenges. Many issues that escalate into major conflicts begin with simple misunderstandings, unspoken expectations, or unchecked emotions. A husband might assume his wife understands his workload and, without discussing it, distances himself emotionally. A wife might expect her husband to instinctively know her needs, becoming frustrated when he does not meet them. Without communication, these small frustrations fester into resentment, creating a rift that the enemy is eager to exploit. Therefore, one of the major contributing factors to the fall of man and the breakdown of a perfectly designed marriage was ineffective communication. God designed marriage to be a partnership where husband and wife walk in unity, make decisions together, and uphold each other in love and accountability. When communication is compromised, the foundation of the relationship begins to weaken, making it susceptible to outside influences. Effective communication is a powerful tool that couples can use to combat the enemy's tactics. It strengthens unity, eliminates assumptions, and fosters trust. When this tool is properly utilized in marriage, the devil is left powerless, and the foundation of the relationship remains unshaken. To cultivate effective communication in marriage, couples must be intentional about 1. Regularly checking in with each other. Making time to discuss thoughts, feelings, and concerns strengthens emotional connection. 2. Seeking clarity before making decisions rather than assuming. Asking for each other's input ensures unity in decision-making. 3. Praying together. Inviting God into daily conversations builds spiritual intimacy and fortifies the marriage against external attacks. 4. Addressing conflicts early. Avoiding prolonged silence or unresolved disagreements prevents bitterness from taking root. Ephesians 4 verse 26. 5. Being open and honest. Transparency in discussions, especially about struggles and temptations, removes opportunities for secrecy and deception. By prioritizing these practices, Christian couples can guard their marriages against the enemy's schemes and ensure that their union remains strong, fulfilling, and deeply rooted in God's divine plan. A thriving marriage is not simply the result of love and good intentions, it requires commitment, intentionality, and a shared pursuit of God's wisdom. When communication is prioritized, the enemy loses his foothold, and the marriage becomes a testimony of God's faithfulness and design. By prioritizing communication, couples can protect their marriages from external influences and build a relationship that not only withstands trials but flourishes under God's guidance. Conclusion: the institution of marriage is a profound reflection of God's goodness, designed to fulfill our relational and emotional needs while serving a greater divine purpose. As we navigate the complexities of marriage, it is crucial to recognize the enemy's tactics and the subtle ways in which he seeks to disrupt the unity God intended. Just as Adam and Eve faced challenges due to ineffective communication, modern couples must remain vigilant in fostering open and honest dialogue. By prioritizing communication, seeking God's guidance, and committing to each other with intentionality, Christian marriages can thrive. Through this commitment, couples can not only experience the fullness of God's blessings in their own lives but also serve as powerful testimonies of His love and design in a world that desperately needs to see the beauty of a God-centered union. In embracing God's original intent for marriage, we can build relationships that withstand trials and ultimately reflect His faithfulness and grace, creating a lasting legacy of love and unity. Chapter 2: The Power of Effective Communication. To fully understand the power of communication and how it affects relationships, we can draw a valuable lesson from our relationship with God. One of the most important ways we maintain a consistent connection with God is through prayer. Prayer is not just a way of expressing our desires or seeking answers, it is a vital form of communication that strengthens our bond with Him. Whenever the devil seeks to separate us from God, he often targets our prayer life. Once our prayer life weakens, we become more susceptible to sin and spiritual disconnection. Therefore, it is crucial to recognize that an effective prayer life is more than just a routine. It is a powerful form of communication that strengthens our ability to resist the temptations of sin. When we neglect our prayer life and allow ourselves to become distant from God, we expose ourselves to greater vulnerability to sin and temptation. Just as prayer is fundamental to our relationship with God, communication is equally vital to the health and success of our marriages and other relationships. In marriage, effective communication is the foundation upon which trust, understanding, and emotional intimacy are built. Just as neglecting communication with God can lead to spiritual separation, neglecting communication in marriage can create a gap that allows for confusion, resentment, and even outside influences to undermine the relationship. Communication is the bedrock of any successful relationship. Without effective communication, even the strongest relationships can suffer from misunderstandings, unmet expectations, and unresolved conflicts. The dynamics of a relationship can begin to unravel if partners fail to communicate openly and honestly, creating emotional distance that can be difficult to bridge. In marriage, communication is not just about exchanging words. It is about fostering a deep connection where both partners feel heard, valued, and understood. True communication goes beyond surface-level interactions and encompasses emotional expression, active listening, and empathy. It involves clearly expressing thoughts and feelings while also being attuned to the nonverbal cues that may reveal underlying emotions. Additionally, creating a safe space where both partners feel comfortable sharing without fear of judgment or rejection is essential for building emotional intimacy. When couples prioritize communication, they not only strengthen their bond but also create an environment where love, respect, and mutual support can thrive, even during challenging times. To experience true success in marriage, you must guard against communication breakdowns, which could manifest in countless ways. For instance, anytime you choose to hide something from your partner, a breakdown in communication occurs, eventually opening the door for the devil to penetrate. You may think you are being wise by withholding certain information from your partner, but such wisdom is not from the Lord. I understand that some partners may be troublesome, and in those cases, hiding information may seem like a way to cope. However, if care is not taken, the devil will find unhindered access. This is why wisdom teaches us not to marry someone with whom we cannot communicate effectively. My advice to singles trusting God for guidance in marriage is to choose a partner who is willing to communicate openly. Visions and revelations alone are not enough to determine a perfect partner. There are many other factors to consider, even if all you see in your dreams and visions are positive. I must be honest, the devil can be easily chased away in a home where effective communication exists. When communication is strong in relationships, it weakens the devil and disrupts his agenda. A case study to fully appreciate the impact of communication, let us draw a lesson from the aviation industry. Years ago, aviation safety investigations revealed that technical failures were not the primary cause of most aviation accidents. Instead, human factors played a more significant role in contributing to incidents and accidents. Among these factors, one of the most critical was ineffective communication. Poor communication among flight crews, between pilots and air traffic controllers, or within maintenance teams has been a recurring factor in many aviation accidents. These breakdowns often lead to confusion, incorrect assumptions, and delayed responses, escalating into life-threatening situations. As a result, the aviation industry has placed a strong emphasis on improving communication skills through crew resource management, CRM, training, standard operating procedures, SOPs, and enhanced technology to minimize misunderstandings and ensure clarity in all aspects of flight operations. CRM training, in particular, focuses on fostering teamwork and effective communication among flight crews, enabling them to navigate high-pressure situations with clear coordination and shared decision-making. SOPs standardize communication protocols, ensuring that important messages are conveyed consistently and unambiguously. Additionally, advancements in technology, such as advanced cockpit communication systems and real-time data sharing, provide pilots and air traffic controllers with tools to exchange critical information quickly and accurately. These improvements underscore the essential role of communication in aviation. Effective communication is crucial for conveying information, resolving issues, acknowledging commands, conducting briefings, executing callouts, and asking questions. Clarity and efficiency in these interactions are vital to flight safety, as communication breakdowns can lead to incorrect assumptions and ineffective crew coordination, increasing the risk of accidents. This highlights that communication is not just about speaking, it is about ensuring all parties share a common understanding and can respond in a timely and effective manner. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA's Aviation Safety Reporting System, ASRS, has documented a significant number of communication-related issues. Within the first 5 years of the reporting system, over 70% of aviation incident reports were directly or indirectly linked to communication failures. This highlights the profound impact that communication has on aviation safety. The Aviation Safety Reporting System, ASRS, which allows aviation professionals to anonymously report safety concerns, has provided valuable insights into recurring communication challenges within the industry. The data emphasizes that communication is not merely an optional skill but an essential one, influencing not only flight safety but also the overall performance of the aviation industry. From experience, I can emphatically say that communication has the potential to enhance human performance. It can mitigate errors and improve safety, especially in high-stakes environments like aviation. A notable example of how effective communication improved crew performance during a crisis is the crash of United Airlines Flight 232. United Airlines Flight 232 was a DC-10 aircraft that crash-landed at Sioux Gateway Airport in Sioux City, Iowa, on July 19, 1989, after suffering a catastrophic failure of its number 2 engine. The accident was caused by an uncontained engine failure, which led to the complete loss of hydraulic pressure, rendering the aircraft almost uncontrollable. Despite these extreme circumstances, the flight crew demonstrated exceptional communication and teamwork. The first officer quickly recognized that the aircraft had become nearly uncontrollable as it entered a right descending turn. However, through coordinated efforts between the crew and air traffic control, ATC, they managed to stabilize the aircraft enough to execute an emergency landing, ultimately saving many lives. NTSB, 1989. This incident highlights how effective communication, under even the most trying circumstances, can make the difference between life and death. In contrast, the KLM and Pan American Air disaster in Tenerife is a tragic example of the devastating consequences of poor communication. Misinterpretations and ambiguous phrasing between the KLM captain, the Pan American crew, and air traffic controllers led to a critical misunderstanding, resulting in the deadliest aviation accident in history. This disaster highlights the vital role of clear and precise communication. When communication is effective, situational awareness is maintained, and threats and errors can be properly managed. However, when communication breaks down, as it did in Tenerife, the consequences can be catastrophic. Therefore, communication has been identified as the backbone of safe flight operations. From relaying critical information to ensuring proper crew coordination, its role cannot be overstated. Effective communication minimizes risks, enhances situational awareness, and enables crews to manage unexpected challenges. As seen in both successful and tragic cases, the ability to clearly convey and interpret information can mean the difference between life and death. In aviation, as in marriage, communication is a vital component that holds everything together. When communication breaks down, both systems, whether in the cockpit or in a relationship, become vulnerable to failure. Ensuring that communication remains clear, open, and consistent is essential for safeguarding the integrity of the mission, the safety of all involved, and the longevity of the bond. The pillars of effective communication. Effective communication is more than just a conversation between two or more people, it is unhindered communication based on honor, honesty, and emotional intelligence. These three elements, honor, honesty, and emotional intelligence, are the pillars of effective communication in any relationship. Honor involves treating others with respect, valuing their opinions, and choosing words that build rather than tear down. When our words are seasoned with grace and honor, they create an environment of trust and openness, fostering healthy relationships. If we speak without honor, it can lead to misunderstandings, resentment, and disconnection, preventing true communication from taking place. Honesty, the second pillar, requires that we are truthful in our words and actions. Without honesty, communication becomes misleading or manipulative, and the foundation of trust crumbles. A relationship where honesty is lacking is built on a shaky foundation, and trust becomes difficult to rebuild once it's broken. In the same way, emotional intelligence, our ability to understand and manage our own emotions, as well as recognize and influence the emotions of others, is crucial. Without emotional intelligence, communication can easily devolve into misunderstandings or conflict, as emotions may drive our responses rather than reason and empathy. It's through emotional intelligence that we become attuned to the needs of others and can respond in ways that preserve dignity, promote understanding, and encourage compassion. Now, let's consider our relationship with God, the ultimate example of effective communication. In our walk with Him, communication is not a one-way monologue but a reciprocal dialogue. Just as effective communication in human relationships requires openness, transparency, and emotional intelligence, so does our communication with God. Devoted believers honor the Lord through their prayer life, bringing their hearts before Him without pretense. The closer you are to God and the more you seek His counsel, the more you demonstrate your submission to His guidance. This, without a doubt, is a form of honor given to God. In turn, He honors us by listening to our prayers and responding to our requests. Regarding honesty, we must recognize that prayer is a two-way channel, an opportunity not only to speak openly with God but also to listen to His voice. Through prayer, we share our joys, sorrows, struggles, and desires with Him. But true communication with God also involves listening to His guidance, acknowledging His sovereignty, and receiving His wisdom. God calls us to be transparent in His presence, to bring our true selves before Him. This is why Proverbs 28 verse 13 states, "He who covers his sins will not prosper, but whoever confesses and forsakes them will have mercy." This verse highlights that honesty and transparency before God are essential for spiritual growth and restoration. When we conceal our sins, we hinder ourselves from experiencing His grace and mercy. But when we approach Him with a contrite heart, confessing our wrongs and seeking His forgiveness, we open ourselves to His healing power and divine wisdom. The psalmist exemplified this transparency in Psalm 139 verses 23 and 24, declaring, "Search me, O God, and know my heart, try me and know my anxious thoughts. And see if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." Here, David invites God into the deepest parts of his being, asking Him to examine his heart and reveal anything that may hinder their relationship. This demonstrates a heart fully surrendered to God, willing to receive correction and guidance in the pursuit of righteousness. Now, in discussing emotional intelligence, we must recognize that when we approach God in prayer, He deeply understands our pain. This is why the Bible says, "For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin." Hebrews 4 verse 15. This verse highlights Jesus' ability to empathize with our struggles, having experienced human emotions, challenges, and temptations, yet remaining sinless. He understands burdens we may find difficult to share with others, which is why He sends the Holy Spirit to comfort and guide us. God does not speak to us in a way that discourages or condemns, rather, His words bring healing, hope, and restoration. Therefore, Just as our communication with God is a sacred exchange built on honor, honesty, and emotional intelligence, so should our communication with one another. In our marriages, families, friendships, and communities, we must strive to embody these same principles. When we communicate with honor, we respect the dignity of others. When we communicate with honesty, we build trust and authenticity. And when we communicate with emotional intelligence, we foster understanding, empathy, and peace. Effective communication, whether with God or others, is an ongoing process that requires effort, humility, and grace. When we master the art of transparent, respectful, and emotionally intelligent communication, we invite deeper connection, healing, and growth into all our relationships. Conclusion: the profound impact of communication on our relationships cannot be overstated, whether in our connection with God or in our interactions with others. Just as prayer serves as a vital channel of communication that strengthens our bond with the divine, effective communication in marriage and other relationships is essential for fostering trust, understanding, and emotional intimacy. Neglecting these crucial aspects can lead to misunderstandings, resentment, and spiritual disconnection. The lessons learned from the aviation industry further illustrate the critical role that clear and effective communication plays in ensuring safety and success in high-stakes environments. By embracing the pillars of honor, honesty, and emotional intelligence, we can cultivate an atmosphere of openness and respect that enriches our connections with those around us. Ultimately, prioritizing communication allows us to navigate the complexities of relationships with grace, enabling us to resist negative influences and build lasting, meaningful bonds. Let us strive to embody these principles in our daily interactions, recognizing that effective communication is not merely a skill but a powerful tool that fosters connection, healing, and growth in our lives. Chapter 3: The first pillar of effective communication, honor. Effective communication is rooted in honor. When respect is absent, communication often becomes a display of pride or disregard. Every person, regardless of age, desires to be honored, as it is a fundamental human need. When honor is present in communication, it fosters high self-esteem and a sense of value. However, when dishonor is perceived, it can lead to low self-esteem and feelings of unworthiness. Maslow's hierarchy of needs identifies physiological needs such as air, water, food, shelter, sleep, and sex as the most fundamental human necessities. Once these are met, the next level is safety and security, followed by love and belongingness, the need for social connections and relationships. The fourth level is self-esteem, which is crucial for personal growth and confidence. The fifth level encompasses cognitive and aesthetic needs, and at the highest level is self-actualization, where individuals realize their full potential. My primary focus in this hierarchy is self-esteem, as it is one of the most essential needs for every human being. Self-esteem is about having a stable, deeply rooted sense of self-respect and receiving respect from others. This means that self-esteem can be derived both internally and externally. Internal self-esteem comes from within. It involves feeling good about oneself, which leads to self-confidence, independence, achievement, competence, and personal growth. External self-esteem is shaped by how we believe others perceive us. It is influenced by factors such as reputation, status, recognition, appreciation, and the respect we receive from our peers and associates. While we often encourage individuals not to seek validation from others, it is important to recognize that external affirmation can still play a significant role in shaping one's confidence and sense of worth. Balancing internal self-worth with external acknowledgement can help individuals cultivate a healthy and resilient sense of self-esteem. As believers, our ultimate goal is to grow in Christ to the point where we can put off the Adamic nature, the natural, fleshly tendency to react to every insult. When we reach this level of spiritual maturity, we no longer seek external validation or approval. However, as humans, no matter how spirit-filled we are, we will still feel the sting of insults. The difference is that, because Christ now lives in us, we are no longer disturbed to the point of responding or retaliating. This marks a fundamental distinction between believers and unbelievers. Unbelievers, when their ego is wounded, are likely to respond or react emotionally. However, believers who are genuinely filled with the Spirit of God and are actively working to crucify the flesh will see insults as part of their suffering for Christ. They understand that enduring such offenses without retaliation is a reflection of spiritual growth and a testament to their faith. That said, while believers are called to exercise patience and humility, it can be challenging to endure constant abuse. It is wise and prudent to avoid environments where insults and mistreatment are habitual, as prolonged exposure to negativity can be harmful. Protecting one's heart and mind is not a sign of weakness but an act of wisdom that aligns with God's guidance for living in peace. As the Bible states, "Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life," Proverbs 4 verse 23. Therefore, when you begin to dishonor someone, even if that person is a believer, they may choose to remain silent rather than confront the issue. However, over time, they will likely begin to withdraw. This is why you may notice a once caring and loving individual suddenly becoming distant or displaying a different attitude. Dishonor creates emotional wounds that, if left unaddressed, can lead to disengagement and broken relationships. Inside every human being, there is a latent, untamed nature aside that, under normal circumstances, remains subdued. The grace and power of God enable believers to restrain this nature, keeping it from manifesting in ways that contradict their faith. However, dishonor is like the sting of a serpent. It has the power to awaken suppressed emotions and reactions. It can bring out the worst in people, pushing them to display attitudes and behaviors they never imagined they were capable of. This is why honor is essential in relationships, whether in friendships, families, workplaces, or spiritual communities. When people feel valued and respected, they are more likely to operate from a place of love, patience, and understanding. But when they experience dishonor, even the strongest individuals may struggle to suppress their natural human reactions. Recognizing this truth can help us be more intentional about treating others with the dignity and respect they deserve. David was a man after God's heart. He was a loving and caring individual who took care of those in distress and encouraged many others. In 1 Samuel 25, when he felt disrespected by Nabal, he was willing to wreak havoc. However, Abigail intervened by showing him respect and honor, which helped him calm down. One of the core values I uphold in my office is respect for everyone. The fact that someone works for me does not give me the right to insult or demean them, regardless of their mistakes. I call this a culture of peace, a workplace environment where mutual respect, open communication, and understanding thrive. When an issue arises, my approach is not to react with anger but to initiate an open and honest conversation in an atmosphere of love and mutual respect. Over the years, I have witnessed the impact of this culture firsthand. For example, one of my staff members has worked with me for nearly 14 years, and not once have we had a serious conflict. This does not mean mistakes haven't been made, but because of this culture of peace, we address every situation through open dialogue rather than hostility. A key aspect of this culture is truthfulness. Regardless of the mistake, I encourage my team to be honest and forthcoming. We acknowledge that mistakes are a natural part of growth, so the expectation is that team members will report their own mistakes rather than hide them. The only thing we do not tolerate is reckless behavior. When mistakes happen, we discuss them openly to understand what went wrong and how to prevent similar issues in the future. Once the conversation takes place, the mistake is wiped from the record and not held against anyone. This approach has proven to foster peace, unity, and trust within the workplace, creating an environment where everyone feels valued, respected, and motivated to improve. You get the best from people when you sincerely honor them, both in words and actions. You will be amazed at the positive qualities people display when they find themselves in a culture that fosters honor. As their self-esteem needs are met, they become more productive. When you bring this type of culture into your marriage, provided your partner is on the same page, it becomes difficult for the devil to gain a foothold. The enemy thrives on division and misunderstanding, but when a couple is committed to resolving issues through open and honest conversations in an atmosphere of love and respect, misunderstandings cannot take root in their home. Many marriages could have been saved from divorce if both partners had been willing to engage in honest, heartfelt discussions with love and respect, honor. However, this requires letting go of ego. Ego prevents you from reasoning with your spouse, making you believe that you are always right. But the goal in marriage should not be about proving who is right or wrong, it should be about fostering peace, mutual understanding, and emotional well-being. There was a time when the devil attempted to create disunity between me and my spiritual father. I sensed it when certain things began to happen, but because I have always made it a point never to dishonor people, especially someone I hold in such high regard, I remained cautious. Then, one day, he called me and shared that he had been having visions of a quarrel between us. When he told me this, I smiled because I had already perceived the enemy's scheme weeks before his call. We talked about it openly, and through honest communication, we dismantled the enemy's plan before it could take root. There were certain things he believed I had done, but they seemed insignificant to me, so I hadn't given them much thought. However, by engaging in sincere dialogue and showing respect for one another, we removed any foothold the enemy might have gained. The devil is cunning, and he thrives in environments filled with strife, disunity, and misunderstanding. To counter his schemes, we must be discerning and proactive in preserving peace. This requires humility in our dealings with people. The Bible warns us, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour." 1 Peter 5 verse 8. Humility serves as a shield. It fosters honor in communication and ultimately prevents the enemy from infiltrating our homes and relationships. How to cultivate honor in communication. 1. Place value on everyone. Begin by recognizing the inherent worth of every individual, regardless of age, gender, or background. This practice trains you to honor others consistently. While people may offend you at times, the value you place on them can help restrain you from responding dishonorably. By seeing others through the lens of their value, you foster a culture of respect in your interactions. 1. Acknowledge that everyone can make mistakes. Perfection is unattainable, everyone has flaws and can err. Therefore, it's essential to develop the capacity to accommodate people's shortcomings, especially in close relationships like marriage. If you find it challenging to accept someone's imperfections, it may indicate that they are not the right partner for you. Embracing this understanding allows for more compassionate and constructive interactions. 2. Listen to others' perspectives. Make a conscious effort to hear and genuinely listen to others. Trust in God's guidance to grow spiritually and emotionally, as these dimensions of personal development will enhance your ability to appreciate different viewpoints. Cultivating a listening heart fosters empathy and understanding, enabling you to engage in more meaningful and respectful conversations. 3. Commit to never disrespecting others. Determination plays a crucial role in your communication style. Resolve to uphold a standard of respect, even when others may unintentionally offend you. While it's inevitable that people will occasionally step on your toes, prioritizing respect will encourage you to walk away from potentially disrespectful situations rather than engaging in negative interactions. This commitment transforms the way you respond to challenges. 4. Pray for the grace of humility. Above all, seek God's grace for humility daily. Making this a regular part of your prayer life invites divine support in your efforts to practice honor. The more you cultivate humility, the more grace God will bestow upon you, enriching your relationships and enhancing your ability to communicate with honor. This spiritual practice not only benefits you but also positively influences those around you. Conclusion: cultivating honor in our communications is essential for fostering healthy relationships, whether in personal or professional settings. By valuing others, acknowledging their imperfections, actively listening, and committing to respectful interactions, we create a culture of peace and understanding. Furthermore, seeking God's grace for humility empowers us to respond thoughtfully and compassionately, shielding our relationships from the divisive tactics of the enemy. Ultimately, embracing these principles not only strengthens our self-esteem but also enriches our connections with others, enabling us to navigate challenges with grace and love. As we commit to honoring those around us, we contribute to a more supportive and uplifting community that reflects the values of respect, understanding, and spiritual growth. Chapter 4: The second pillar of effective communication, honesty. Dishonesty is like a cancer that gradually destroys relationships. It creates a foundation for distrust, allowing negativity and doubt to flourish. Once dishonesty takes root, it opens the door for destructive forces, making it easier for harmful agendas to be carried out. This deceit gives rise to assumptions, leading to misunderstandings and misinterpretations. When assumptions take hold, they invite all sorts of negative emotions: resentment, suspicion, and bitterness, which further erode the relationship. Ultimately, dishonesty undermines the trust and connection that are vital for any healthy relationship, leaving it vulnerable to a variety of destructive influences. To experience favor in your relationships, whether with your spouse or others, you must prioritize honesty and hold it in the highest regard. The Bible teaches us, "Let not mercy and truth forsake you, bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart, and so find favor and high esteem in the sight of God and man." Proverbs 3 verses 3 and 4. One of the key pathways to favor is living with honesty. In any relationship, when you are known to be upright and trustworthy, much will be entrusted to you. This trust and respect often translate into what we recognize as favor, especially in the eyes of those who may not fully understand the depth of how trust is tested and maintained. Favor in relationships comes from the integrity you demonstrate, which builds a solid foundation for both trust and mutual respect, ensuring that others recognize your sincerity and value your presence. Honesty is a cornerstone of effective communication. When you are known to be truthful, others can rely on you, and your words carry weight. People can trust that what you say is genuine and dependable. This trust becomes even more evident when you make mistakes. Because of the credibility you have built over time, others are more likely to forgive you. However, if you have a habit of lying, even when you speak the truth, people will struggle to believe you. The damage caused by dishonesty can be long-lasting, and the enemy can use that mistrust against you, creating division and doubt. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it takes significant effort to rebuild. That's why honesty is so essential. It fosters open communication and establishes a foundation of trust that can withstand mistakes, misunderstandings, and challenges. When people can count on your word, they are more willing to extend grace and keep the relationship strong. In many marriages today, dishonesty lies at the root of numerous problems. For example, infidelity often arises from dishonesty. As a man, if you notice another woman sending inappropriate signals and you immediately share this with your spouse, you are practicing honesty and, in doing so, indirectly closing the door on the devil's influence. However, if you hide such actions from your partner, you open the door for the devil to enter. Many Christians fall into the sin of adultery because they fail to open up to their spouses early enough, when they first begin to receive unholy signals from the opposite sex. The devil thrives in secrecy, manipulating hidden actions and intentions. But you can dismantle his agenda by choosing to live a transparent life. Transparency fosters trust, keeps the relationship healthy, and prevents the enemy from gaining a foothold. When you address issues openly and honestly, you safeguard your marriage from the destructive forces of deceit and temptation. Some couples make major life decisions such as building houses, making large purchases, or engaging in significant activities without their partner's knowledge. They fail to realize that such secrecy creates cracks in the foundation of their relationship, cracks that the devil is eager to exploit. The enemy is constantly searching for opportunities to destroy marriages, and secrecy provides him with a foothold. One of the most effective ways to protect and strengthen your marriage against his attacks is to cultivate the habit of transparency. Being open and honest with your partner builds trust and serves as a sign of humility and brokenness. It demonstrates a willingness to place the relationship above personal pride or fear, fostering a deeper connection and mutual respect. Transparency removes the darkness in which the enemy thrives and brings the light of unity and accountability. By practicing openness, you fortify your marriage and make it less vulnerable to external pressures or internal struggles. Before assuming that the devil is at work, it's important to understand the impact dishonesty can have on your relationships. Here are a few consequences that dishonesty can bring to your relationships. 1. Assumption. Dishonesty opens the door for assumptions and suspicion. When trust is broken, people are left to fill in the gaps with their own ideas, often leading to misunderstandings and misinterpretations. This creates an environment where the devil can easily strike, using doubts and false beliefs to weaken the bond between partners. 1. Loss of respect. Respect is closely tied to trust. When you are found to be dishonest, the respect that others have for you, especially your partner, can quickly diminish. People value reliability and honesty, and when you are perceived as untrustworthy, you risk losing that respect, which can have long-lasting consequences for your relationship. 2. Emotional distance. Trust plays a crucial role in fostering emotional connection. When your partner can rely on you, they are more willing to open up and share their thoughts and feelings. However, once trust is eroded, they may begin to withdraw, creating an emotional distance. This withdrawal stems from their inability to confide in you anymore, leading to feelings of isolation and detachment. 3. Insecurity. When trust is broken, insecurity takes root. People feel anxious about the intentions and motives of their partner. They begin to question the authenticity of their interactions, leading to hesitation and uncertainty. This insecurity can undermine the foundation of the relationship, as doubts and worries begin to cloud the connection. 4. Emotional burnout. Constantly worrying about whether you can trust your partner is emotionally exhausting. This ongoing stress drains both parties, leading to a sense of emotional burnout. Over time, the fatigue from dealing with distrust and uncertainty can leave both partners feeling depleted, making it harder to maintain a healthy relationship. 5. Frequent conflict. Without trust, even the smallest issues can escalate into major arguments. Suspicion often leads to defensiveness, and communication breaks down, fueling ongoing conflict. What might have been a simple misunderstanding turns into a larger dispute when trust is compromised. Dishonesty doesn't just affect the relationship in the moment, it sets the stage for ongoing challenges that can weaken the bond between partners over time. Addressing dishonesty and rebuilding trust is essential for preserving the emotional health of the relationship. Conclusion. Honesty is a vital pillar of effective communication that strengthens relationships, fosters trust, and provides a foundation for long-term connection. Dishonesty, on the other hand, is a silent destroyer, eroding respect, emotional intimacy, and security in relationships. Whether in marriage or any other form of relationship, transparency and openness create an environment where trust can thrive, and favor can be realized. Secrecy and dishonesty invite suspicion, emotional distance, and conflict, making the relationship vulnerable to external influences, including the enemy's destructive tactics. As we embrace honesty, we not only protect our relationships from harm but also cultivate an environment where grace, forgiveness, and unity can flourish. Ultimately, by choosing transparency and integrity, we build stronger, healthier relationships that stand the test of time, free from the chains of deceit and its damaging consequences. Chapter 5. The third pillar of effective communication, emotional intelligence. Peter Drucker, an Austrian-American consultant and educator, once said, "The most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said." This statement is rooted in emotional intelligence, which enables you to perceive and understand unspoken words, unseen actions, and other forms of nonverbal communication. Emotional intelligence, EI, is also defined as the ability to understand and manage one's own emotions while also recognizing and influencing the emotions of others. It plays a crucial role in communication, as it enables individuals to navigate conversations with sensitivity, awareness, and intentionality. When a person develops emotional intelligence, they become more mindful of their words, choosing them carefully to ensure they convey the intended message without causing unintended harm. They are aware that communication is not just about expressing thoughts but also about fostering understanding and connection. Emotionally intelligent individuals take the time to assess a situation, consider the emotions of those involved, and respond in a manner that promotes constructive dialogue. On the other hand, those who lack emotional intelligence often disregard the impact of their words on others. They may speak impulsively, without weighing the gravity of their statements, leading to misunderstandings, hurt feelings, or unnecessary conflict. Their communication style may come across as harsh, insensitive, or dismissive, which can damage relationships and hinder effective collaboration. Developing emotional intelligence enhances one's ability to listen actively, regulate emotional responses, and engage in conversations that build trust and mutual respect. It fosters an environment where open and honest communication can thrive, ultimately strengthening personal and professional relationships. The Bible instructs us, "Let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer each one." Colossians 4 verse 6. This verse highlights the importance of being mindful of others' emotions in our conversations. Our words should not be harsh, careless, or destructive, but rather filled with wisdom, kindness, and sensitivity. If you identify as a Christian but struggle to speak with grace, it is a sign that you may not be fully bearing the fruit of the Spirit. The presence of the Holy Spirit in our lives should naturally guide us to communicate in a way that uplifts and edifies others. As Galatians 5 verses 22 and 23 outlines, the fruit of the Spirit includes love, patience, kindness, and self-control, qualities that should shape how we interact with people. When we cultivate these virtues, we become more intentional about how we speak, ensuring that our words bring encouragement rather than harm. Seasoning our words with grace does not mean avoiding difficult conversations, but rather addressing issues with wisdom and a heart of understanding. A well-seasoned response, like salt in food, preserves relationships and fosters peace, allowing us to communicate effectively without causing unnecessary offense. Anytime I hear people say, "I don't care, I just have to say it as it is," I simply nod my head, because such individuals often lack emotional intelligence. They believe that bluntness, without consideration for others' feelings, is a virtue, when in reality, it is a sign of poor emotional awareness. When you develop emotional intelligence, you gain the ability to handle difficult situations with wisdom and restraint. People may hurt or offend you, but instead of reacting impulsively, you learn to wait for the appropriate time to address the issue in a way that fosters understanding rather than conflict. This skill enables you to resolve disagreements with grace, ensuring that your words do not inflict unnecessary harm. However, if you fail to cultivate emotional intelligence, you will find yourself in a constant cycle of conflicts, always dealing with misunderstandings and strained relationships. Worse still, this lack of control creates an opening for negativity to take root in your life. The enemy thrives on division, and when he sees that you are easily provoked, he seizes the opportunity to use you as a tool for discord. One of his ultimate goals is to sow strife, and unchecked emotions make it easier for him to succeed. Emotional intelligence is not just about self-control, it is a powerful tool for navigating relationships, fostering peace, and preventing unnecessary division. Cultivating this grace transforms the way you communicate, enabling you to be a positive influence in every interaction. If you fail to cultivate emotional intelligence, you will inevitably make many enemies. As your careless words hurt others, they, in turn, may look for ways to retaliate. This cycle of offense and revenge is the reason many people find themselves in constant battles. They have misused their words and, as a result, created unnecessary conflicts. Naboth's life was tragically cut short because he lacked emotional intelligence in handling a delicate situation. His words deeply offended King Ahab to the point that the king became distraught and refused to eat. So Ahab went into his house sullen and displeased because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him, for he had said, I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers. And he lay down on his bed, and turned away his face, and would eat no food. 1 Kings 21 verse 4. Unfortunately, Ahab's wife, Jezebel, seized the opportunity to manipulate the situation. She orchestrated a scheme to have Naboth falsely accused and executed, ultimately seizing his vineyard for Ahab. While Naboth had every right to defend his inheritance, wisdom was crucial in how he conveyed his position. The manner in which we communicate, especially with those in authority, can have significant consequences. The Bible reminds us, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Proverbs 15 verse 1. Had Naboth responded with wisdom and tact, he might have been able to stand his ground while avoiding a fatal confrontation. This passage serves as a powerful lesson on the importance of emotional intelligence in navigating complex interactions. Knowing not only what to say but how to say it can mean the difference between conflict and resolution, peace and destruction. Joab, David's commander, also demonstrated a lack of emotional intelligence in his interactions, particularly in how he addressed the king. On several occasions, he spoke harshly to David, showing little regard for the king's emotions. One striking example was when David was mourning the death of his son, Absalom. Instead of offering support or wisdom, Joab rebuked him harshly, making David feel as though his grief was inappropriate. Then Joab went into the house to the king and said, "Today you have humiliated all your men, who have just saved your life and the lives of your sons and daughters, your wives and concubines. You love those who hate you and hate those who love you. You have made it clear today that the commanders and their men mean nothing to you." 2 Samuel 19 verses 5 and 6. Joab's blunt and insensitive approach damaged his relationship with David, to the point that the king began considering replacing him with Amasa, another military leader. 2 Samuel 19 verse 13. However, Joab, realizing that his position was threatened, took matters into his own hands and murdered Amasa in cold blood under the guise of a friendly greeting. 2 Samuel 20 verses 7 to 9. This pattern of reckless and emotionally uncalculated behavior eventually cost Joab dearly. Before his death, David instructed his son, Solomon, to ensure that Joab was held accountable for his actions. "Moreover, you know also what Joab the son of Zeruiah did to me. Do not let his gray head go down to the grave in peace." 1 Kings 2 verses 5 and 6. Joab's story is a powerful lesson on the consequences of failing to exercise emotional intelligence. His inability to manage his emotions and communicate wisely not only led to strained relationships but ultimately sealed his downfall. This highlights the importance of responding to situations with wisdom, self-control, and an awareness of how our words and actions affect others. Wisdom is inevitable in our dealings with humans. When people recognize that you lack wisdom in communication, some may intentionally provoke or manipulate you into saying things that can be used against you. They set traps with their words, knowing that you will respond impulsively, further damaging your relationships and reputation. Those who frequently lament, "Nobody wants to associate with me," often struggle with emotional intelligence. They have not mastered the art of relating to difficult people, nor have they learned how to communicate in a way that fosters connection. Sometimes, others distance themselves from them simply because their words lack grace and sensitivity. They do not know when to speak and when to remain silent, and as a result, their interactions push people away instead of drawing them closer. Emotional intelligence is essential for maintaining healthy relationships. It teaches you the power of thoughtful communication, helping you build bridges instead of walls. When your words are seasoned with grace, you create an environment where trust, understanding, and mutual respect thrive. Barriers to cultivating emotional intelligence. The two greatest barriers to cultivating emotional intelligence are pride and anger, and they often go hand in hand. Those who are prideful tend to struggle with anger, and those who have anger issues often operate from a place of pride. Both traits hinder personal growth and damage relationships, making it difficult to communicate effectively and with grace. If you recognize pride or anger in yourself or your partner, it is crucial to take intentional steps to address them through self-reflection, prayer, and seeking wisdom. Failing to do so opens the door for continuous conflict, as these traits create an environment where misunderstandings and disputes are inevitable. Anger and pride are entry points through which the enemy gains access to people's lives, fostering division and strife. This is why the Bible warns, "A man of great wrath will suffer punishment, for if you rescue him, you will have to do it again." Proverbs 19 verse 19. Unchecked anger leads to repeated cycles of destructive behavior, and pride prevents people from acknowledging their faults and seeking reconciliation. However, when you commit to developing emotional intelligence, you learn to manage your emotions, respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively, and build relationships rooted in humility and understanding. Emotional intelligence in marital relationships. When you lack emotional intelligence, you will constantly hurt your partner's feelings, leading to frequent conflicts and unresolved issues. Over time, if this pattern continues unchecked, it can transform a loving and caring partner into someone who appears cold, distant, or even aggressive. This happens because, at some point, they may feel they can no longer subject themselves to constant emotional distress. Many relationships fall apart for this very reason, yet people often blame the devil for their troubles. While spiritual forces can play a role in discord, the truth is that failing to exercise emotional intelligence creates the opening for such negativity to take root. However, when you choose to speak words that uplift and encourage, you foster an environment where love and understanding thrive. Instead of tearing your partner down, you bring out the best in them. Their confidence, emotional well-being, and even their overall performance in different areas of life will improve because you have cultivated an atmosphere that nurtures their potential. When you create a space filled with grace, affirmation, and emotional support, you empower your partner to flourish, strengthening the foundation of your relationship. How to develop emotional intelligence? To develop emotional intelligence, consider the following strategies. 1. Show respect for others. Treat everyone with dignity, regardless of their background or opinions. Respect fosters trust and strengthens relationships. 2. Be cognizant of others' feelings. Pay attention to the emotional states of those around you. This awareness allows you to respond appropriately and avoid misunderstandings. 3. Let your words be seasoned with grace. Speak thoughtfully and kindly, especially in challenging situations. The way you communicate can either build or break connections. 4. Make it a priority not to hurt others. Be mindful of the impact your words and actions have on others. Choose empathy over defensiveness and avoid causing harm, whether intentional or accidental. 5. Develop humility. Be open to feedback, recognize your limitations, and avoid arrogance. Humility creates space for growth and deepens your connections with others. 6. Cultivate empathy. Practice putting yourself in others' shoes. Understand their experiences, feelings, and perspectives, which will help you respond with care and consideration. 7. Enhance social skills. Strengthen your ability to connect with others by being approachable, listening actively, and engaging in healthy conversations. Social skills are crucial for building positive relationships. 8. Learn and grow relationship skills. Invest time in learning how to maintain healthy and supportive relationships. This includes conflict resolution, effective communication, and setting healthy boundaries. 9. Increase your self-awareness. Regularly reflect on your own emotions, strengths, and weaknesses. The more you understand yourself, the better you can manage your emotions and interactions with others. 10. Cultivate the fruit of the Spirit. According to Galatians 5 verses 22 and 23, the fruit of the Spirit includes love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Developing these qualities enables you to interact with others in a way that reflects wisdom, compassion, and integrity. They serve as a foundation for emotional intelligence, helping you navigate relationships with grace and understanding. Conclusion: emotional intelligence is a vital skill that influences how we communicate, build relationships, and navigate life's challenges. It enables us to respond to situations with wisdom, self-control, and sensitivity rather than reacting impulsively in ways that damage our connections with others. Without emotional intelligence, misunderstandings, conflicts, and strained relationships become inevitable, often leading to unnecessary pain and division. In personal relationships, particularly in marriage, emotional intelligence plays a crucial role in fostering harmony and growth. When we speak words of encouragement and create an atmosphere of support, we bring out the best in our partners and strengthen the foundation of our relationships. Conversely, a lack of emotional intelligence can push loved ones away, creating a cycle of conflict and resentment. Pride and anger are two major barriers to emotional intelligence, preventing people from engaging in thoughtful communication and reconciliation. The Bible warns against these traits, as they open the door for strife and hinder personal growth. However, through self-awareness, humility, and the guidance of the Holy Spirit, we can cultivate emotional intelligence and become individuals who inspire peace, understanding, and positive influence in every interaction. Ultimately, developing emotional intelligence is not just about avoiding conflict, it is about reflecting the character of Christ in our words and actions. By choosing wisdom over impulsivity, grace over harshness, and patience over anger, we position ourselves as vessels of peace and instruments of God's love. In doing so, we not only strengthen our relationships but also fulfill our calling to be a light in the world, demonstrating the power of godly wisdom in our daily lives. Chapter 6 The emergence of the devil. Adam and Eve did not invite the devil, but he paid them a visit, which ultimately led to their downfall. This event highlights a profound truth: temptation often comes uninvited. The devil, or evil forces, are constantly moving around, seeking opportunities to lead individuals astray. Just as a fortress protects its boundaries from intruders, you can create spiritual and emotional boundaries to defend against temptation. Staying vigilant, grounded in positive values, and being aware of your surroundings are key to keeping the devil's influence at bay. When people are trusting God for a future partner, they are actively looking for someone who will give them peace of mind and make their future glorious and beautiful. Because of this, serious-minded believers spend quality time praying and seeking the face of God on whom to marry. As believers, we observe the spiritual life and the character of whoever we want to settle down with. These are excellent things to do, and I encourage everyone desirous of a peaceful home to check carefully before saying I do. However, no matter how careful you are in choosing a life partner, the devil will still attempt to visit. This is the reality of life. Your approach to life will determine if the devil will gain access or will be chased away. If the Lord gives you the most loving, gentle, and understanding individual as a partner, indeed, those character traits should help you have a glorious life together. However, those character traits alone are not sufficient for a blissful marriage. In aviation, before a pilot takes off, it is crucial to conduct a thorough pre-flight inspection. Pre-flight ensures the safety and readiness of an aircraft before departure. It involves a thorough inspection of the aircraft's systems, structure, and equipment to identify any potential issues that could affect flight safety. Pilots check vital components such as engines, fuel systems, electrical systems, and flight controls, as well as ensure that the aircraft is properly loaded and balanced. By completing a detailed pre-flight inspection, pilots can address any mechanical or safety concerns, minimizing the risk of malfunctions during flight. Pre-flight not only ensures the aircraft is operational but also provides an opportunity to assess weather conditions, review flight plans, and verify important documents. Ultimately, a comprehensive pre-flight routine is essential for maintaining safety standards and ensuring a smooth, trouble-free flight. However, this does not guarantee that issues will not arise during flight. For instance, consider the case of U.S. Airways Flight 1549. Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger and First Officer Jeffrey Skiles conducted all necessary pre-flight checks before their departure. Yet, shortly after takeoff from LaGuardia Airport in New York City, the aircraft struck a flock of geese while en route to Charlotte, North Carolina, causing both engines to fail. Despite their thorough preparations, unforeseen environmental factors posed a severe threat to the flight. By the grace of God, Captain Sullenberger and First Officer Skiles remained composed, executed emergency procedures, and successfully glided the plane to a water landing in the Hudson River just minutes after takeoff. From this illustration, we can draw an important lesson: a successful marriage is not defined by the absence of challenges but by the ability to overcome them, often through effective preparation. While choosing a supportive and understanding partner who aligns with your destiny is crucial, it is equally important to develop the skills necessary to navigate life's challenges when they arise. In one of my aviation-related books, I define pilots as threat managers because a professional pilot is not someone who knows how to manipulate flight controls but someone skilled at managing threats and errors when they arise. Pilots are rigorously trained to handle a wide range of emergencies to ensure the safety of passengers, crew, and the aircraft. Their training includes mastering procedures for mechanical failures, weather-related challenges, fire emergencies, and more. Simulators are often used to replicate real-life emergency scenarios, allowing pilots to practice decision-making under pressure without the risk. They are also trained to remain calm and composed, as clear thinking in high-stress situations is critical. Additionally, pilots undergo recurrent training to stay updated on the latest procedures, technologies, and safety protocols. This training is essential because, while the likelihood of an emergency occurring during a flight is low, being prepared for such events can make all the difference in ensuring a successful outcome. Through this comprehensive training, pilots develop the skills, knowledge, and confidence needed to handle emergencies and mitigate risks in real-world situations. These emergency situations symbolize the attacks that can arise in a home. Just as pilots are trained to handle emergencies in flight, anyone entering the institution of marriage must be equipped with the knowledge and wisdom to navigate unexpected challenges. For instance, you may marry someone who is gainfully employed, but what if they unexpectedly lose their job? Would you abandon your spouse simply because they are unable to fulfill financial responsibilities during that difficult season? While no one hopes for such challenges, the reality is that many marriages have collapsed due to financial hardships and unforeseen crises. The purpose of preparing for marriage is not to dwell on negative possibilities or be consumed by fear, but to build the resilience needed to withstand challenges and keep the devil at bay should he try to disrupt your home. A strong foundation built on love, faith, wisdom, and preparedness ensures that when trials come, you and your spouse stand together rather than fall apart. The devil's gateway. If you think the devil will appear physically, you are missing the point. I strongly believe that what happened in the Garden of Eden was more spiritual than physical. However, that is not the main issue I want to focus on. The channel the devil uses nowadays is the works of the flesh. As long as you and your partner, or even just one of you, practice the works of the flesh, the devil will inevitably find a way in. He will look for the weakest link and use that person to gain access, just as he did with Eve. This is why it is essential to marry someone who loves the Lord and is willing to obey His word. Let's see what the Bible says about the works of the flesh. When you follow the desires of your sinful nature, the results are very clear: sexual immorality, impurity, lustful pleasures, idolatry, sorcery, hostility, quarreling, jealousy, outbursts of anger, selfish ambition, dissension, division, envy, drunkenness, wild parties, and other sins like these. Let me tell you again, as I have before, that anyone living that sort of life will not inherit the kingdom of God. Galatians 5 verses 19 to 21 NLT. Have you ever encountered a case of divorce where none of the traits listed in Galatians 5 verses 19 to 21 was a contributing factor? That would be nearly impossible. The works of the flesh such as immorality, jealousy, outbursts of anger, selfish ambition, and others are at the root of many broken relationships. Wherever these sinful behaviors are present, the devil gains easy access and operates without resistance. His mission has always been to steal, kill, and destroy, and he thrives in environments where sin is tolerated. If Eve had fully understood the devil's mission when he approached her in the Garden of Eden, she would have immediately rejected his presence. Instead, she unknowingly entertained him, allowing him to plant seeds of doubt and deception in her heart. Likewise, when we indulge in sinful behaviors, we are essentially engaging in a dialogue with the enemy, giving him room to manipulate and lead us astray. Sin may appear pleasurable for a moment, offering temporary satisfaction or justification, but its consequences are always devastating. It erodes trust, damages relationships, and ultimately leads to destruction. This is why it is crucial to remain vigilant, resist temptation, and cultivate a life rooted in the Spirit rather than the flesh. Only by walking in alignment with God's Word can we safeguard our hearts and homes from the enemy's schemes. Sinful thoughts may occasionally try to creep into your mind. This is like the devil knocking at the door of your life, seeking an opportunity to enter. However, the moment such thoughts arise, you must stand firm and resist them immediately. Rebuke every evil thought and reject any inclination toward ungodly actions. This act of resistance is akin to shutting the door in the devil's face and refusing him access to your life. On the other hand, if you dismiss these thoughts as harmless or entertain them even slightly, you begin to crack open the door for the enemy. What starts as a seemingly insignificant compromise can quickly escalate, drawing you deeper into sin. The more room you give the devil, the more influence he gains, and before you realize it, he has taken a foothold. Once the enemy gains entry, his only mission is to steal, kill, and destroy. Escaping his grip then requires nothing short of God's mercy and divine intervention. This is why it is crucial to remain spiritually alert, guard your heart diligently, and shut down every attempt of the enemy to infiltrate your mind and actions. Victory lies in immediate resistance and unwavering commitment to righteousness. Shutting out the devil. Shutting the devil out of your home requires 4 major steps. 1. Cultivating the fruit of the Spirit. 2. Walking in wisdom. 3. Engaging in effectual prayer. 4. Effective communication. Cultivating the fruit of the Spirit. The more you and your partner cultivate the fruit of the Spirit, the harder it becomes for the devil to gain access to your home. Where the fruit of the Spirit reigns, the devil has no foothold. His influence is completely paralyzed. The Bible outlines these virtues in Galatians 5 verses 22 and 23, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such, there is no law. When you carefully examine these virtues, you'll realize that they serve as direct antidotes to the very things that cause conflict in marriage. Take love, kindness, and faithfulness. For example, it is difficult for a couple who genuinely practice these qualities to remain in constant strife. Love fosters understanding, kindness nurtures patience, and faithfulness builds trust, all of which create a strong foundation for a peaceful and thriving home. By intentionally cultivating these attributes, you fortify your marriage against external attacks and ensure that your home remains a place of God's presence, free from the enemy's influence. Walking in wisdom. Wisdom is essential for building a lasting and sustainable marriage. As the Bible states, through wisdom, a house is built, and by understanding, it is established. Proverbs 24 verse 3. Another verse reinforces this truth: the wise woman builds her house, but the foolish pulls it down with her hands. Proverbs 14 verse 1. If you are trusting God for a peaceful and problem-free home, seeking wisdom is non-negotiable. While Proverbs 14 verse 1 speaks about a woman building her home, the responsibility of establishing a strong marriage does not rest on the woman alone. Both the husband and wife must actively build together. If one is working to strengthen the home while the other is tearing it down, the foundation will eventually crumble. A truly blissful home requires both partners to pursue wisdom wholeheartedly, shutting out the enemy's influence and fostering unity. The ultimate proof of wisdom is humility. This is why the Bible says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom, James 3 verse 13, NIV. Both men and women must clothe themselves with humility in marriage. Men, as the head of the home, understand this: until you walk in humility, you may not genuinely earn your wife's respect. She may honor you out of obedience to God's command, but if it is not from the heart, it is not true honor. This is where many men get it wrong. The love that God commands you to show your wife is a form of honor, and when you express it sincerely, you will also reap it in return. Likewise, women, the honor that God commands you to show your husband is a form of love, and when you express it genuinely, you will receive honor in return. The foundation of both love and honor in marriage is humility. Walking in humility makes it easier to love, and it makes it easier to honor. And as the Bible teaches, humility is the way of wisdom. Engaging in effectual prayer, as previously stated, the devil will attempt to gain access, but you must guard your territory through wisdom, cultivating the fruit of the Spirit, and engaging in effectual prayer. While walking in wisdom and developing the fruit of the Spirit are crucial, they alone may not be enough to keep the devil at bay. The enemy is persistent and may try to force his way into your home, which is why prayer is essential. No matter how spiritual you are, there will be moments when your guard is down, times of exhaustion, distraction, or vulnerability. The devil is always watching, waiting for an opportunity to sow seeds of discord and destruction. These seeds may not manifest immediately, but over time, they can take root if left unchecked. Whenever you notice anything unusual in your home or your relationship, do not dismiss it as mere coincidence. Don't just rationalize it, address it in the place of prayer. When you begin to observe undesirable changes in your partner's behavior or attitude, that is not the time to react with frustration or distance yourself emotionally. Instead, have an honest and open conversation while also recognizing that a spiritual battle may be at play. Those negative traits may be the early signs of seeds the enemy has planted without your knowledge, slowly beginning to germinate. Perhaps your spouse is unknowingly adopting an ungodly mindset or forming relationships with friends who negatively influence them. Do not ignore these warning signs. Deal with them in prayer, seeking God's intervention and wisdom to handle the situation early enough. A spiritually guarded home is a protected home, and prayer is the key to shutting the devil out before his schemes take root. Effective communication, as previously mentioned, communication is crucial in any relationship, but one key point I want you to truly understand is that it is essential not only when there are issues to resolve but also when everything seems fine. Open and honest communication strengthens the foundation of a relationship, preventing misunderstandings from taking root. It fosters trust, deepens emotional connection, and ensures that both partners are aligned in their values, expectations, and goals. Many problems in relationships arise not necessarily because of major conflicts but due to a lack of consistent and meaningful communication. By making communication a daily habit rather than just a tool for problem solving, couples can create an environment of openness, support, and mutual understanding, making it harder for external influences to cause division. Conclusion: the journey of marriage is not devoid of challenges, rather, it is marked by the necessity of preparation and vigilance. Just as Adam and Eve encountered temptation unexpectedly, couples today must be aware of the spiritual warfare that can infiltrate their relationships. By actively cultivating the fruit of the Spirit, seeking wisdom, engaging in effectual prayer, and fostering effective communication, couples can build a resilient foundation that shields their home from the devil's attempts to disrupt their peace. The metaphor of aviation reinforces this truth. Just as pilots prepare meticulously for their flights, individuals entering marriage must be equally diligent in preparing for the journey ahead. It is not enough to select a loving partner, one must also be equipped with the knowledge and strategies to navigate the inevitable storms that may arise. Ultimately, the strength of a marriage lies not in the absence of adversity but in the couple's ability to face it together, grounded in faith and mutual commitment. By guarding their hearts and minds and prioritizing their spiritual growth, couples can create a home that not only withstands the attacks of the enemy but thrives in love, joy, and unity. Let us strive to build marriages that reflect God's design, standing firm against temptation and walking in the light of His truth. Chapter 7 Candid Advice for Singles. As designed by God, the institution of marriage is meant to be a lifelong relationship. Indeed, there are many theories and ideologies surrounding the concept of marriage, and many of them fail to embrace the original design that God has for it. My goal here is not to criticize any principles but to uphold the standards and expectations that God has for marriage, which emphasize the commitment of till death do you part. Therefore, if the original design is meant to be a lifelong relationship, wisdom is needed in making the right choice, otherwise, one may end up regretting their choices later on. Many have risen to great heights because they made the right decision at the critical juncture of marriage, while others have seen their dreams crumble because they missed it. This statement is not meant to instill fear but to emphasize the importance of wisdom in choosing a life partner. The person you marry will significantly influence your journey, either becoming a source of strength and encouragement or a stumbling block to your progress. I grew up in an environment where prayer and fasting were considered essential steps before making a marital decision. If you told anyone that you had found a potential spouse, the immediate response would be, "Have you prayed about it?" Beyond personal prayers, you were encouraged to involve prayer partners, seeking their intercession and spiritual insights. This practice has helped many avoid disastrous marriages. I personally know individuals who followed divine guidance and are now experiencing peace and fulfillment in their marriages. On the other hand, I've also witnessed people who ignored clear warnings from God, opting to follow their emotions, societal pressures, or personal desires. Unfortunately, many of them are now facing the consequences, with some even going through separation or divorce. Taking care of the spiritual aspect of marriage is not just important, it is crucial. We may know our present circumstances, but we do not know what the future holds. Only God, who sees the past, present, and future, can provide the wisdom needed for such a life-altering decision. That is why it is essential to involve Him from the very beginning, trusting His guidance rather than relying solely on human understanding. However, I must be honest with you, I have seen countless people who prayed earnestly and received what they believed was a divine confirmation about their partner, yet they still ended up in troubled marriages. Many even had confirmations from spiritually inclined friends and family members, yet their relationships eventually fell apart. This raises an important question: if God cannot lie, why do some people who claim to have received divine approval for their marriage still end up in divorce? If you are single and trusting God to guide you in choosing the right partner, you will do yourself a great favor by paying close attention to what I am about to share. First and foremost, understand that God is the author of marriage, and He has given us a manual for it, the Bible. Knowing and applying biblical principles is just as important as praying for guidance. One key aspect that many overlook is the issue of submission, not just in the sense of a wife submitting to her husband, but mutual submission to God's will. Your level of submission to God, as well as that of your intended partner, is a foundational factor in ensuring you make the right choice. A person who is not fully submitted to God may struggle to align with His design for marriage, no matter how much they pray beforehand. I will explain this in detail as we proceed. In the previous chapter, I provided an illustration of the pre-flight inspection that pilots must perform before flying. Now, let me shed more light on this process. Once an aircraft is dispatched to pilots, conducting a thorough pre-flight inspection becomes an essential step before takeoff. One critical aspect of this inspection is checking and verifying the aircraft's weight and balance. If it becomes evident that the aircraft is overweight, pilots are required to either remove some cargo or defuel to ensure that the aircraft remains within the required takeoff parameters. In some cases, if the aircraft proves unsuitable for the mission, the crew may need to request another aircraft. Neglecting these precautions can have disastrous consequences, as seen in the case of Fine Air Flight 101, N27 UA. The National Transportation Safety Board determined that the probable cause of the accident was improper cargo loading, which resulted in an aft center of gravity and an incorrect stabilizer trim setting, ultimately causing an extreme pitch up at rotation and leading to the crash. Now, I want you to picture aircraft dispatch as a metaphor for God giving you His approval to embark on the journey of marriage with your partner. Just as a pilot is assigned an aircraft to fly from point A to point B, you have been assigned a life partner to journey with until you reach the destination of till death do us part. However, receiving an aircraft assignment does not automatically guarantee a safe flight. The responsibility for conducting a proper flight inspection lies with the pilot to ensure a smooth and safe journey. Similarly, in marriage, your pre-flight inspection involves thoroughly examining yourself and your partner to identify anything that could hinder a successful marital journey. This stage is crucial. If a pilot blindly jumps into an aircraft just because it has been released for flight, they risk disaster. Without verifying fuel levels, ensuring the fuel is not contaminated, and checking other essential parameters, the pilot may unknowingly set themselves up for failure. The same principle applies to marriage. Just because you have received confirmation to proceed does not mean you should ignore crucial factors that could impact the future of your relationship. A careful and honest assessment before takeoff both in aviation and in marriage can mean the difference between a smooth journey and a catastrophic crash. My chief flight instructor was flying with a student one day when the student performed a quick pre-flight inspection. Trusting that the student had completed all necessary checks, the instructor did not verify the pre-flight process. Unfortunately, the student had overlooked a crucial step. As they taxied to the active runway and received takeoff clearance, they began the takeoff roll. However, just as the aircraft gained momentum, the engine suddenly quit. They had to abort the takeoff immediately and declare an emergency. An investigation into the incident revealed that the engine failure was due to fuel contamination. There was a small amount of water in the fuel tank. The student had failed to detect it because his pre-flight inspection had been rushed and superficial. Had he performed a thorough pre-flight, he would have discovered the water, drained it, and avoided the emergency. His negligence, combined with the instructor's complacency in not double-checking, contributed to the incident. This illustration highlights an important truth: if you fail to examine everything necessary before saying I do, even though God may have authorized your union, you cannot blame Him for any challenges that arise later. The responsibility of ensuring that everything is in order before tying the knot lies with you. Many times, people focus solely on evaluating their partner, not realizing that there may be things within themselves that need attention. These could be character flaws, unresolved foundational issues, or other personal challenges that, if left unchecked, could lead to turbulence in marriage. This period of assessment is not about looking for reasons to walk away but about understanding what needs to be fixed, adjusted, or even removed before embarking on the lifelong journey of marriage. Just as a thorough pre-flight ensures a safe flight, a careful and honest self-examination along with an evaluation of your partner can help lay a strong foundation for a successful and fulfilling marriage. I have been emphasizing the 3 pillars of effective communication: honor, honesty, and emotional intelligence, but do you or your partner consistently practice them? If the answer is no, then you must be prepared to face challenges that may arise as a result. Communication is a foundational element of any successful relationship, and neglecting it can lead to avoidable conflicts. This is where many believers miss it. They assume that because they have prayed and received God's approval to marry someone, everything will automatically fall into place. However, when their marriage begins to face difficulties, they are quick to question God, forgetting that the Bible says, "A person's own folly leads to their ruin, yet their heart rages against the Lord." Proverbs 19 verse 3, NIV. God's approval does not exempt anyone from the responsibility of building a strong, healthy marriage through wisdom, effort, and intentionality. If, after thorough self-examination and careful assessment of the partner God has approved, you realize that your differences are too significant to build a lasting union, it is wise to return to God in prayer. Seeking his guidance repeatedly is not a sign of faithlessness but rather a demonstration of wisdom when making such a lifelong decision. At this point, you must present all you have discovered to God and seek His direction. Consider the aviation process. When an aircraft is dispatched to a pilot, and pre-flight inspections reveal some faults, the pilot reports them to maintenance. Some issues may require a quick fix, leading to minor flight delays, perhaps 1 or 2 hours while the necessary repairs are completed. Similarly, if you identify potential problems in your relationship, call on God to address them before moving forward. This may also involve seeking counsel from a godly advisor, and if spiritual deliverance is needed, do not hesitate to seek it in a Bible-believing church. Addressing issues early is crucial because, just as some mechanical problems become impossible to fix mid-flight, certain marital challenges may be too late to resolve once the union has begun. Nevertheless, there may be things you do not discover before marriage. This is why it is essential to prepare adequately and trust the wisdom of God. However, if you have done all you can to resolve the differences and they remain irreconcilable, do not assume that either of you is a bad person, yet you might need to grow in certain areas. Instead, it may simply indicate that, despite your best efforts, you are not truly compatible. Marriage requires more than love and divine approval, it also demands alignment in values, character, and vision. Returning to the aviation analogy, if maintenance personnel determine that an aircraft's issues cannot be quickly resolved, they may recommend canceling the flight or assigning another aircraft. This is why flight cancellations occur. If the assigned aircraft is deemed unfit for flight, it is grounded, and an alternative aircraft is provided at the appropriate time. Likewise, if the differences in your relationship are insurmountable, letting go of one another may be the wisest decision. However, if you recognize warning signs, often called red flags, but still choose to proceed with marriage, despite God not leading you to endure such hardship, as He did with Hosea, giving him a clear warning about his marital challenges, then you cannot blame God for the consequences. Ignoring clear signs of incompatibility is a failure to walk in wisdom. The Bible warns, "A prudent man foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." Proverbs 22 verse 3, NKJV. The reality is that those who disregard wisdom and biblical counsel will inevitably face the repercussions of their choices. Marriage is not a leap of blind faith but a journey that requires both divine direction and personal responsibility. While prayer is essential, wisdom, discernment, and effective communication are equally critical in ensuring a successful and fulfilling marital union. While writing this book, I had a conversation with a brother who reviewed some of my work. After reading a portion, he remarked that if God is leading someone, then that person is good, and the marriage will surely be successful. I understood his perspective. After all, God cannot mislead. However, hearing from God does not automatically eliminate challenges. Internal factors, such as character flaws, and external influences can still impact marriage. Consider it from the perspective of destiny. Having a glorious destiny does not guarantee its fulfillment. One's attitude, along with external or foundational factors, can ultimately determine whether that destiny is realized. In the same way, receiving divine direction about a spouse does not guarantee a successful marriage. You must still put in the effort and actively address any obstacles that could hinder its success. Let me state this clearly: when God leads, you can be assured that He does not mislead. If He is guiding you towards someone, He knows that both of you have the capacity to work together. However, internal and external factors can still impact the success of the marriage. That is why both you and your partner must put in the effort to make it work. Listen, the approach I present in this chapter is not about seeking perfection. No one on earth is 100% perfect. We are all works in progress. However, it is important to recognize what could negatively impact you and your purpose. That is what truly matters. Someone may have certain character flaws that you have the grace to endure without being negatively affected. However, another person may struggle with those same flaws, turning them into a major issue. This is why it is crucial to understand yourself first before seeking a partner you can truly walk with. Be sure that you can genuinely cope with whatever you observe. If you choose to ignore certain traits you cannot tolerate simply because you are in love, those same issues may become much harder to overlook once you are married. A well-known man of God once shared his ordeal regarding marriage. Before he got married, he noticed several obvious red flags but chose to proceed anyway. Unfortunately, his partner nearly ruined his ministry. Before their wedding, the woman physically assaulted him but apologized, insisting it was a mistake. However, after they got married, the pattern continued until they eventually separated. He later admitted that he had ignored those warning signs. How can I know the right person? While prophetic means such as visions, revelations, and dreams are valuable in discerning God's leading, they should not be the sole basis for decision-making. Many have heard voices or had dreams about a potential partner that were not from God. The prophetic can be easily manipulated, and without discernment, one may mistake the voice of the devil for the voice of God. I cannot count the number of people who claim to have heard from God, only to see their marriages fall apart. In hindsight, they realized that the voices they heard were not from Him. The honorable thing to do is to vet every prophetic encounter through the Word of God. The Bible says, "House and wealth are an inheritance from fathers, but a wise, understanding, and sensible wife is a gift and blessing from the Lord." Proverbs 19:14 amp. When God is leading you to someone, that person will possess wisdom, understanding, and likely align with your purpose and calling. This is why I believe the most important questions to ask when seeking a life partner are, 1. Does he or she align with my purpose? 2. Do I foresee peace in the future by journeying with this person? 3. Will this person build or hinder my destiny? These questions are crucial because the blessing of the Lord makes one rich, and He adds no sorrow with it. Proverbs 10 verse 22. I do not believe it is in God's nature to give you a problematic partner. However, if God has specifically told you that your journey will be like that of Hosea, you might need to approach red flags and these questions from a different perspective. Human factors in marriage. I can emphatically tell you that over 80% of the challenges in marriage are caused by human factors, not the devil. When couples fail to address and improve these human factors, they inadvertently create room for the enemy to operate. In the context of marriage, human factors refer to character and attitude. These two elements play a crucial role in shaping the dynamics of a relationship. If you are waiting on God for a marital breakthrough, don't just wait. Work on developing your character and refining your attitude. More than prophecies or revelations, these qualities will determine the success of your marriage. While divine guidance is important, a lack of personal growth in these areas can still lead to marital struggles. As I have emphasized before, ineffective communication opens the door for discord, and your character and attitude significantly influence how you communicate not just with your partner but with everyone around you. The earlier you start working on these areas, the better. Take responsibility for improving yourself, ensuring that your character and attitude align with God's principles. If left unchecked, they can become the very things that destroy your home. Growing while waiting. While trusting God to connect you with the right person, it's essential to focus on growing in your walk with Him and cultivating the fruit of the Spirit. This allows the Lord to shape your character for a glorious marital journey. Many believers pray for the right partner, yet they often overlook their own character flaws. They long for a kind and loving spouse, but if such a person enters their life, they may unintentionally become a hindrance to that person's well-being. The noblest course of action is to surrender yourself to God, allowing Him to work on you and address the fleshly tendencies that may be present. As you embody the character of Jesus, attracting the right partner becomes much easier. The need for mercy. Now, let me reveal an important secret. After you have done everything necessary, prayed, exercised wisdom, and carefully assessed your decision, make sure to cry out to God for mercy. No matter how prudent or discerning you may be, without God's mercy, you can still miss it. Prayer is powerful, and wisdom is essential, but ultimately, it is God's mercy that ensures you get it right. I believe God speaks about a man who has found mercy when he says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing, and obtains favor from the Lord." Proverbs 18 verse 22. The mercy of God can position you for a marital breakthrough in ways that wisdom alone cannot. While wisdom helps you identify and avoid the wrong people, it may also cause delays, making you spend years searching for the right person. However, when you encounter God's mercy, He divinely orchestrates the meeting with the right person, someone you might never have imagined crossing paths with on your own. Another profound work of mercy is that it can frustrate your efforts to marry the wrong person, no matter how hard you try. Many of the disappointments people face in relationships are actually acts of divine mercy. When God sees that the road ahead in a particular union is filled with turmoil, He may intervene by creating obstacles, preventing the relationship from progressing. In such moments, you may mistakenly think the devil is at work, not realizing that God is actually protecting you. Therefore, as you seek God's guidance in your marital journey, do not rely solely on your own understanding. Instead, make it a priority to continually pray for His mercy. It is His mercy that will align you with the right person, shield you from destructive relationships, and lead you into a marriage that fulfills His divine purpose for your life. Conclusion: marriage, as designed by God, is a lifelong commitment that requires both divine guidance and personal responsibility. While prayer, wisdom, and discernment are essential in choosing a life partner, they must be complemented by careful self-examination, effective communication, and a willingness to grow in character and attitude. Just as a pilot must conduct a thorough pre-flight inspection before takeoff, those preparing for marriage must evaluate both themselves and their potential spouse to ensure a strong foundation for their union. Ultimately, even after taking all necessary steps, we must recognize that it is God's mercy that positions us for success in marriage. Human understanding has its limits, but God's mercy can align us with the right person, protect us from harmful relationships, and orchestrate divine connections beyond our imagination. Therefore, as you embark on the journey of marriage, seek God's guidance, embrace wisdom, take responsibility for your choices, and above all, continually pray for His mercy. It is through His mercy that you will walk in favor and experience the fullness of His purpose in your marital life.